Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of XTG's Meet the Technologist podcast. This is a podcast I put together because I really wanted to showcase some of the amazing people on the XTG team. And today, I grabbed one of our creative technologists, Brad Sager. How are you, Brad?
I'm well. How's it going, Mark?
Going well, man. Super happy to have you on the show. I think it's valuable for people out in the marketplace, people within the company to know about the resources and about the people they get to work with when they bring these exciting projects our way to XTG and the things that bring us awards. So really happy to have you on the show. And I'd love to just start by this title, creative technologist, it's not a title that a lot of AV companies have, right? Like a lot of AV companies have design engineers and project engineers and sales engineers, but creative technologist kind of lends itself to a whole different definition. So I'd love to hear from you kind of how you view your role as a creative technologist within XTG.
It's kind of a two-pronged thing. I think first, when we just talk about creative technologist, with the creative technologist side, we're part of XTG, Experience Technology, right? And we're not in a design engineer process as a this is going to plug into that. It's going to make this thing happen, and this is our very linear, very you know. And now you have a Teams room or a Zoom room, right? We're about experience. We're about trying to change people's emotion there and give them the feels or the vibes, right? So that's the whole point in that creative technologist is how can I back your experience into the technology that we need, right? There's a lot of cool stuff and there's a lot of expensive boxes I can throw at people, but it doesn't mean anything until something is captivating and it really, draws people in. And so I love that aspect. And I think that's what it is on a creative technologist side. I think the second prong of that answer is I'm the odd duck within the creative technologist group. So I started off as a creative technologist, and that was where I was living. And then we sort of had this medical simulation piece start to really ramp up, and they needed somebody who had some sort of background or knowledge of that environment. And so I kind of took like that to a fish to water because came from a school of pharmacy. We had a standardized patient program. I got involved. I already knew I deployed to the entire sim centers before with AV systems. So I was comfortable with even the people that were on the consultant side, as well as how it has to come together to really be important. And I think that helped out a lot, and it worked out well. So on the side of that, I got really involved with the Society for Simulation in Healthcare, got a certification, certified healthcare simulation operations specialist. They call it CHSOS. We like to call it cheese sauce. Cheese sauce. It's kind of funny for me. They also have an educator one. We call that one cheesy, but that's beside the point. So I got on involved with that, and I think that helps again from an experience standpoint. Is I have experience. I've taken the certifications. I know some of the things you're going through. So instead of somebody off the street, I can say, how can I change this system to deliver the best experience for both patients, like simulated patients, for students who are trying to learn, and for practitioners who are trying to teach and give students that immersive feel and keep that veil down so everything still feels like it's immersive. And I think that's really one of the fun things on the sim side that we get to do.
I love that lens, the operator lens, because an operator has to come in the room and use that AV system, and so being able to have that certification and know from an operator's perspective what a system should do, could do, what could it do better, how could we enhance this, how can we create a richer student experience that actually increases, or makes patient outcomes better because these students go out in the real world and actually deliver healthcare, right? So that long tail of what it means to know what it is to teach and to operate a system and not just design one, I think is really interesting. And from what I've heard, and you can confirm or deny, Brad, you're one of the only certified operators in the AV world.
I just got back from the SimOps conference and I saw the statistics. There are 1,098, so just under 1,100 certified CHSOS people, period, in the world. So of those 1,100, to my knowledge, I'm the only one that works in AV. And I will say that because one of the things you have to do to be approved to take that test is have references and a background in sim. So lucky me, I had a background before I came to AV. I was actually doing the AV in a school.
Yes.
So that was, we had that standardized patient program and I was helping people handle that and run it. So that was where I kind of lucked out in having the experience to sit for the test.
Well, great. What a great feather in your cap for that, for sure. You're talking about this lens, and before I go into the next part, you also support another center of excellence within XTG. We have a center of excellence around enterprise broadcast, which has a lot to do with virtual production and extended reality, and a lot of these buzzwords that we hear out in the space today. How did that kind of come about that you had some of that background to support that group?
Well, it's funny. It was somewhat background and somewhat where the practice landed, right? We have the person who handles that practice also happens to, run the sim side. So they said, "Well, what do you know about this?" And I said, "I know enough to be dangerous." And then I had some great people. We've got some amazing design engineers. David Bielowski has a huge background in it here as one of an engineering managers. So at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show. I really kind of got thrown into the fire, and it was a lot of, "Hey, how's this going on?" And I do love. I mean, we all like playing with toys, right? Like we're recording this now, and I
Yep.
think anything that really brings that up to where I can have some more interesting pieces. I think it was as people are kind of adopting those broadcast grade cameras and pro audio systems and advanced production infrastructure. I think what it does is it gives this polished, more visually compelling sort of experience. And that's going to help bring up the quality of the meetings, the presentations, and actually the weight of the message. And I think that's really, really cool. So I got going on that piece, and now I'm kind of working with the enterprise broadcast team as well. So I'm sure we'll figure out another avenue to extend XTG to, and I'll probably get my foot wet on that one too.
That's awesome. Well, the reason I asked that question is I know a little bit about you and some of your passions and some of like your hobbies or some of the things you've done in the past. And I know, you're into broadcast, into doing some emceeing and some of those things. How have your passions kind of outside, I know you're into music, you're into mixology, you're into DJ, you're into broadcast, you're into some of those things. How have those passions, I guess, added to kind of your success, I guess, or colored the type of projects you like to work on?
So, got multiple decades ago when I was in college. Let's take that back a hot second. I actually was I DJ'd, right. Had a lot of CDs, and kids, there were a thing called CDs. They were discs. They held music. Anyway, I started DJing from with fraternity house DJ equipment, and then I ended up buying my own stuff, and then it just sort of turned into this thing, right? That was there. I went through, had a journalism degree. I started doing work in radio, so I had some broadcast experience on radio. And then, if you don't know, radio, you just make buckets of cash. I mean, you trip over the silly amounts of money that you make in promotions or on-air talent. That is complete sarcasm. It is a sad, sad state of affairs for a medium having a tough time. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way. That said, I knew enough about that, and then I, put together enough DJ systems, so that actually got me my first gig into doing AV. They were like, "Do you have any experience?" And I'm like, "I know how to plug an XLR in." And they were like, "Well, that's better than the other person, so here you go." So, I mean, the DJing part sort of got me in, and then you get into AV and find out that 80% of the people here that are on anything technical were aspiring or previous or sometimes musicians or DJs. I mean, it's a heavy number.
Yeah.
So that I think my lens is almost the same as a lot of people on that piece, right? But I will say from stuff like even mixology, right? You love a cocktail, like the interesting nuances that you can have in there, really like the history of how these things came about, how they get produced, what the story is. So I got way into mixology, but as you're building some of those drinks, one story, right? I mean, I can hand you a drink and go drink this, and if I hand you a you know an old fashioned, but I put it in a Dixie cup, you will go, "Yeah, this is all right, sure, whatever, thanks." if I put it in a glass with the big ice rock and I give you the story on how this came about and what we're doing and where did this whiskey come from and why does it have this story behind it and what is it that makes it interesting and why did I use Demerara sugar instead of a regular table sugar, right? You're building this story and this aura, and then it gets presented in this great package, and you go, I am excited. Like you can't wait to drink it, right? And that's the same thing on AV, right? I want to build the whole thing out to where you go, I want to use this. This is fun to use. It's engaging to use. People get excited when we deliver our message this way. And that's so much better than going, well, I opened my laptop for a Teams meeting and I couldn't get my webcam to turn on, right? It's not, that's your Dixie cup. Yes, it
Yes.
gets the job done, but I'm not really thrilled about it. And that's kind of one of those things that I think we really have to keep in mind when we're putting together a full story or a cohesive package.
I love how you just lit up when you were telling the story because, one of the things that people don't know about our technologists is you guys are really in charge during the process, during the client communication process of presenting your own vision. So, you're not only designing and coming up with these ideas, but you are leaned on to tell the story of how what you've designed meets this need and is going to move people. And I love that we have these multi-talented people that, you guys don't only get into the technical background, but you really get into why is this important and why would somebody be passionate about this and why does it move the needle in a way that doesn't. With that leading into that passion, obviously you work on a lot of type of projects. Like you said, right now you're mainly focused on medical simulation, enterprise broadcast. You came from SKC before the merger, so you had a big experience in experiential workplace and in workplace technologies. And then, you had a lot of the art of the possible before you started really just supporting these two main pieces. You did a lot of ideation on other projects as well. What's one of the ideas that came to fruition, or one of the projects you worked on that you were kind of most passionate about that lit you up as far as like I saw it built and I felt proud to be part of that.
Oh, I have a handful, but I'll tell you the one that I'm excited, I'm a very in the present kind of guy, right? And there's one that I'm dealing with right now as we speak, and it hits both of those, right? So it is a medical simulation piece, but there's also a component of that creative technologist bit, right? People come in and they're in a lobby and they need to be able to see some different things that are going on. So we've got stuff like transparent OLED up front. We've got different content management so we can start showing people what kind of cool technology, cutting edge ways of in teaching students and coming up with solutions and research do we have going on in this building, right? So that's super interesting to see from that side. When you get past that lobby, they've got a photogrammetry set up where they've got a full cage doing like 360 degrees worth of photogrammetry, and then we put all that onto a big curved LED wall that can do like multiple duties, right? So it can be touch interactive, so we can whiteboard and we can talk to things. It's got 3D capabilities, so if you want to be inside of a vein or an artery and you want to see those blood cells traveling through real time, you can do that. How does what we just did affect that for an outcome? And how can we model some of that? And then we also have VR stations that go around the backside of that to help people also be in there if they, want to be more immersed, right? So we've got a handful of all these technologies going on, and it's super exciting, and I can't wait for that one to pop off.
Sounds exciting. It sounds like Inner Space is what it reminds me of. Like it's the
A
Inner
little
Space
bit.
project, right? But with a real world, impact, not
Absolutely.
just entertainment value. That's amazing. On the flip side of that, many times you get to invest a lot of time, energy, ideas, mental capacity. You create something that you think is amazing that you can't wait to see come to fruition, and then it gets scrapped. Somehow it hits the cutting room floor. Do you have anything like that where you spent a lot of time, energy, and you were hoping, you had your fingers crossed it was going to happen, and it just didn't? Like something you'd like to see somebody pick back up?
Oh, we had an amazing space that was an entire case of physical media sitting behind transparent, OLED style screens so that you could do a touch interaction and see, and it would reveal, show everything that was happening all of these screens went down this main channel, and you could then go through it. We had everything tied together. So you would have like ambient pieces that kind of flowed through and would help walk you down, and you could learn about things. And when you were finished, we had this big curved LED wall. It was like a big J array. So then we had all of this touch interactive that was happening over there, but it was all done through some fantastic storytelling. We had had a partner, a creative partner engaged, and that's always, I think, a great thing, and something I will always point out to anybody is, make sure to budget for that content, right? Because the content can be so much better and engaging if you have amazing content on a 100-inch touchscreen, or I can sell you 35 feet of LED that's dark and boring, or I can run regular digital signage. Hey, it's 95 degrees outside. Okay, who cares, right? Like, it's not doing anything. I
Exactly.
don't care. And this was really, we had the content partners going, we had the motion sensing activation, we had, the whiteboarding and the ability to interact, and then we also had these really interesting stations where you could stop and tick things off and learn a whole lot about what was happening, and it was so interesting. And it got put on pause, for funding. And so I hope they are raising some money for it, and it will come back to fruition, because I would be very excited to see that come back open.
Those mixes of tactile, physical analog objects, digital overlay, customized content, curated for the people that are there. There's nothing that beats it. It's
No, that personalized experience is where it's at.
That's so great. Well, Brad, I know you have a super busy schedule, and I appreciate you jumping on here. Everybody, hopefully, you learned a little bit about the award winning. I got to point out in the back the Above and Beyond award in the back of the room there.
There it
The
is.
award winning technologist, Brad Sager, from the XTG team. Feel free, if you want to learn more about XTG, we're avispl.com/XTG. You can see some of the projects that maybe even Brad implemented on there. And if you want to get in touch with us, connect to us through LinkedIn as well. So we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining Meet the Technologist. And hopefully we'll see you all again next time.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks, Brad.